Hello students, I hope you are all fine and in good health. I will be continuing from where I left in my previous audio discussion related with the chapter The Enemy. Now, as you all know that both Hannah and Sadao came very close to this man, that mysterious stranger who was lying unconscious and his body was covered with blood and sand. Now they saw the face. I discussed up to this in my previous audio presentation. Now let me continue from the next line. A white man, Hannah whispered. Whispered means to say in a very soft voice that it is a white man. Yes, it was a white man. The wet cap fell away, and there was his wet yellow hair, long, as though for many weeks it had not been cut. This man is looking very much disorganized. Even his cap that he is wearing, it is wet, and his yellow hair now it is very long, as if he haven't had a haircut for many years, or rather to say for many weeks, it seems so. And upon his young and tortured face was a rough yellow beard. His face was young because he is young, but it seems that by looking at his face, one thing is very much clear, that he was being tortured. So it is young and tortured face was a rough yellow beard. He was unconscious and knew nothing that they did for him. Now, this man was pretty unconscious and he was completely unaware of what Hannah and Sadao did for him. Now I am moving on to the next paragraph, dear students. Now Sadao remembered the wound, and with his expert fingers he began to search for it, because he was a doctor and he previously uh, saw the wound, that particular wound. Now his expert fingers were busy searching for the wound. Blood flowed freshly at his touch. Flowed freshly means oozing of blood. Now, when Sadao uh, touched that part of his body from where he thought that the wound might be, blood came out. On the right side of his lower back, Sadao saw that a gun wound had been reopened. So this man had been shot. So there is a gun wound at his body. Or rather to say, this man was been shot and there is a gun wound. And when Sadao touched it, it reopened once again. The flesh was blackened with powder. It was like a blood clot. That portion is, now we can say it's a blood clot. So the flesh was blackened with powder. Sometime not many days ago, the man had been shot and had not been tended. It was bad chance that the rock had struck the wound. It seems that this man had been shot many days ago, because a doctor can actually identify, and that is the reason a doctor's medical report is very important. After the death of an individual, we call it post-mortem report. So here also Sadao came to the deduction, or his diagnosis is that this man was been shot many days ago, not today itself or tonight itself, but many days ago, and had not been tended. It was bad chance that the rock had struck the wound. Now, since that place from where the man came, struggling with the heavy sea waves, there were some there were some sharp rocks. So maybe one such rock had hit that wounded part of his body, and again that wound had reopened. Oh, how he is bleeding! Hannah whispered again in a solemn voice. The mist screened them now completely. Screened means you can say the mist has now covered them up completely. And at this time of day, no one came by. And at this hour, no one came by. The fishermen had gone home, and even the chance beachcombers. Now, beachcombers means those sellers who sells commodities near the sea beach. And even the chance beachcombers would have considered the day at an end. Now, it is not possible for the beachcombers also to stay here for long. Even they had also went home. What shall we do with this man? Sadao muttered. Sadao is in a dilemma. What he will do with this man? But his trained hands seemed of their own will to be doing what they could to staunch the fearful bleeding. Staunch means to stop. He packed the wound with the sea moss that strewed the beach. The man moaned with pain in his stupor, but did not awaken. The man felt a bit of pain, but this man is still very much unconscious. The next line I am quoting: the best thing that we could do would be to put him back in the sea, Sadao said, answering himself. Now, this is not the final decision that Sadao and Hannah would take, but Sadao said in his mind that it would be best to put him back to the place from where he came. That means put him back to the sea. Now that the bleeding was stopped for the moment, he stood up and dusted the sands from his hands. Now he did a bit of a local nursing, and the wound, the blood that was oozing by, and the wound that had reopened, now it seems that more or less now for a time being, no blood is coming out. So Sadao now stood up, and since his hands and feet were covered with dust, he went on rubbing those. Yes, undoubtedly, that would be best, Hannah said steadily, but she continued to stare down at the motionless man. Now, Hannah was also of the same opinion, that of Sadao, and it was that maybe the best thing would be to plunge him back into the sea, to throw him back into the sea from where he came. But still, they were reluctant to take this decision jointly. If we sheltered a white man in our house, we should be arrested, and if we turned him over as a prisoner, he would certainly die. Now, this is very important. Now, both Hannah and Sadao, they are in a dilemma, and the dilemma that Sadao was having, he told that dilemma to Hannah, that if we give shelter to him means this injured American prisoner of war, then in due course of time we will be arrested, and if we turn him to the authorities as a prisoner, then obviously there is no chances of survival of this man. In that case, this man would certainly die. The kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea. Now, Hannah finally came to the conclusion that the most kindest, the most generous thing that can be done right now is to put him back into the sea from where he came. But neither of them moved because they had a bit of kindness left in them. They thought and thought of putting this man back into the sea, but when the real action was needed from their part to do the needful related with this injured man, They waited. They waited for a final decision. Now, I repeat this line once again. If we sheltered a white man in our house, we should be arrested. And if we turned him over as a prisoner, he would certainly die. The kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea, Hannah said. But neither of them moved. They were staring with a curious repulsion upon the inert figure. Inert means motionless. Now they already made up their mind that we will put him back into the sea. But their thoughts are not being converted into action, and both of them, that means both Hannah and Sadao, they were staring at the inert figure, at the lifeless figure of this man, unable to take a proper and a precise decision right now. What is he? Hannah whispered. There is something about him that looks American, Sadao said. He took up the battered cap. Yes, there's almost gone, was the faint lettering. A sailor, he said, from an American warship. He spelled it out, US Navy. The man was a prisoner of war. Obviously, when they saw the cap previously, they had a doubt in their mind that maybe he belongs to the Navy. Now, later it was confirmed when US Navy was written on the cap, though it is not properly visible because of the sea waves and because of the struggle that this man had, and since his clothes are badly torn and battered, but still US Navy, this particular term is been written on the cap, so that made it clear that he belongs to the enemy country, that is America. And at that time, as I told you earlier, dear students, Japan and America, they were staunch enemies, and the backdrop is the Second World War. He has escaped, Hannah cried softly, and that is why he is wounded. He has escaped, and that is the reason, since he tried to escape and almost successfully he escaped. As he was trying, he was hit from behind. He was shot from the back. Now, in the back, Sadao agreed. They hesitated, looking at each other. Then Hannah said with resolution. Resolution means determination. They already came to the conclusion that what exactly happened with this man. He was trying to escape. He was shot from the back. And that is the reason there is the gun wound in his body. They hesitated, looking at each other. Then Hannah said with resolution, "Come, are we able to put him back into the sea? Are we able to put him back into the sea?" If I am able, are you? Sadao asked. That yes, if I can you? Now, no, Hannah said, but if you can do it alone, then I don't have to bother much. Sadao hesitated again. The strange thing is, he said, that if the man were whole, I could turn him over to the police without difficulty. Whole means, here it means that if this man would have been fit and fine, then I would have handed him to the police without any problem, without any difficulty. I care nothing for him. He is my enemy. In a very plain and simple terms, Sadao told Hannah right now that I don't care for him because at the end of the day, he is my enemy. All Americans are my enemy, and he is only a common fellow. You see how foolish his face is. But since he is wounded, but the problem is that this man is badly wounded, and it is against my ethics to let him arrested right now. You also cannot throw him back to the sea, Hannah said, and you can't let him arrested. You also can't throw him back to the sea. Then there is only one thing to do. One thing means, dear students, only one option. Since you can't let him be arrested by the police because he is badly wounded, he hardly had any sense in him right now. He is lying like an inert figure, totally unconscious. And on other hand, the most important thing is that it is not possible for Dr. Sada also to throw him back into the sea as been told by Hannah, because Hannah was also reluctant to do that. Then only one option is left. Let us carry him to our house. Let's see. You cannot throw him back to the sea, Hannah said. Then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the house. Then only one thing we have to do. We must carry him to the house, because apart from that, there is no other option left. But the servants, Sadao inquired, but what about the servants? We have to convince them, right? We must simply tell them that we intend to give him to the police, as indeed we must, Sadao. We must think of the children and your position. We will try to convince them that we intend to give him back to the police, but not in a dying state. When he will recover, we will hand him over to the police. And obviously we must, because we have to think about your position, your family. That means this is what Hannah told to Sadao, because Sadao was a prestigious, renowned surgeon and well trusted by the general. But this act might go against him. And that was the fear that was at the back of the mind of Hannah. We must think of the children and your position. It would endanger all of us if we did not give this man over as a prisoner of war. Yes, now endanger means our life will be at big threat. Our life will be at big threat if we do not surrender this man as a prisoner of war. Then our life will be at big threat. Certainly, Sadao agreed. I would not think of doing anything else. Certainly, I would not think of doing anything else. I also have the same plan in my mind. Thus agreed together, they lifted the man. So I am stopping here, dear students. So finally, they agreed. That is the best way, that is the best thing to do right at this moment, is to carry this man to their house. Later, after this man will be medically fit, when this man will be nursed back to normal health, at that time they decided to have him arrested. But at this moment, both the husband and the wife, that is Dr. Sadao and Hannah, they decided to carry this man to their house. So finally, I'm stopping right now here in this audio presentation with this line. Thus agreed together, they lifted the man. So finally they agreed with one another. Finally they together, what they did? They lifted the man. So dear students, I am stopping right now here. In my next audio presentation, I will be continuing with this paragraph. I just have started with the first line of this paragraph. Before I end this audio presentation, I just started with the last line. This line I started with, thus agreed together they lifted the man. So in my next class, I will be continuing from this paragraph, but of course I will recapitulate a bit, 2 or 3 lines the previously what I discussed, so that you will be well acquainted with this. It's a very lengthy story. It will take a lot of time to complete this, and I will go pretty slowly because it's a revision class. So I hope you will listen to this audio presentation, and if there is any doubt, please clarify. Thank you, students. Thank you all.